Hi Shivangi, welcome to the Crack the MBA show. How are you?
Hi, Nupur. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm great as well. Thank you so much for coming on. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Oh, no, of course. Like, I am definitely looking forward to this myself because I know how helpful talking to a person who's been through the process has been for me. So, definitely ready to do whatever I can in my capacity.
Oh, that's super wonderful. Great. So Shivangi, just to begin, if you could introduce yourself for our listeners and viewers, that'd be super helpful.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Shivangi. I am a current MBA student at the Wharton School. I just finished my first year and I'm currently doing my internship at EY-Parthenon in New York. Before coming to Wharton, I worked for Anheuser-Busch for 5 years, primarily in sales and marketing roles across the different work streams. And before even going to Anheuser-Busch, I was studying commerce at Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University. After 5 years, I definitely then decided I want to pursue my MBA, and I'm so thankful that I got in touch with Nupur and was able to not only just apply but like apply with flying colors and get to my dream school here at Wharton.
That's amazing. Thank you, Shivangi, for sharing that. What led you to decide to apply for an MBA after you'd been working at AB InBev for 5 years?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I felt like I had an absolutely amazing career growth at the firm in India back then. But after like doing sales and marketing, I realized that that's something, especially in the consumer space, I really enjoy. But it was still stagnated to one particular industry because you're doing alcohol sales in India. So it's kind of very, very restricted there in terms of what all you can do, how much you can grow there. And I felt like if I'm even before I settle down and decide this is it for me, I at least want to explore a couple of other options. And which is what led me to even decide that if that's the case, then I think the best experience is going to be an MBA because not only it'll help me open up the different options that are going to be there, but also at the same time with the people that I'm going to meet, with the professors over here, with the different club experiences, I'll also be able to evaluate what I really like before deciding on. And that's exactly how my first year also looked like, where I looked at different opportunities, I spoke to different people, and then thought that okay, before I delve into anything very specific again, let me look at like consulting as a career option where I'm be working across different projects, different industries, and then decide that if not consumer alcobev, this is the X industry that I like. And hence I landed up with an MBA and now a consulting job.
Very exciting. We're definitely going to talk about your internship a little bit later. Uh,
Sure.
Prior to that, would also love to know how did you go about choosing your schools, right, as you were looking to apply, and what attracted you to Wharton? If you can talk about your admissions process a little, what worked for you, what you could have done better. I know that's a lot of questions, but would just love
Absolutely.
to.
No, I get that. I feel like that itself is like a whole 2 year process on its own. So I'm going to break that down as you had asked. So firstly, when I thought about deciding the schools, I was very clear, like if I was doing pretty well at the firm and if I wanted to then apply, I thought that the perfect match will be the school that meets will give me these kind of opportunities. Plus, I feel like I wanted to be very careful of what I do after the school as well. And which is why I knew that I really want to target the top M7 schools for sure, because I felt like if I need that full experience, a wholesome experience in terms of academics, in terms of meeting the diverse set of people I want, and having that choice in picking up the right picking up a job which I'm really not aware at that time. I want that complete mix for myself. I knew like a top school which has that level of diversity, which has that level of scale can only give me. So I went ahead having an open mindset between all the top 7 schools per se. But I feel like while applying and while researching on the schools, I kind of already knew where I'm getting the most attraction. And why I say this is actually very interesting because my biggest like aspect and one thing I'm super passionate about in life till date, and that's also something I'm continuing at Wharton, is diversity and inclusion. that is one thing that back in my undergrad or at work or even right now is one thing I'm continuously pursuing. And the school that resonated the most with me on these aspects was Wharton because of the immense opportunities that you have over here in terms of diversity and inclusion, like just to pursue and just to get more, aware of what is happening in this space, what the professors are doing or what like the firms are doing and how you can contribute in this space is what I actually felt the most connected with at Wharton during my research, and I can like definitely give examples of it. Someone if someone's interested in the D&I space, so not just in terms of the courses that obviously Professor Stephanie Crary has been providing in terms of her knowledge in the space, but like we have a whole DEI summit that we do. We have multiple clubs who are just focused on like having a more inclusive environment, not just at the school, but even after school in terms of the jobs that you take up. So like return on equality. You have the Wharton Women in Business, which is focused on that. So and I feel like with all of these aspects, I mean, I'm sure most schools have DEI as a big aspect, but Wharton specifically stood out in terms of the different initiatives that it's been taking. And that's why I got like extremely interested in that. And and to your last question, that how did I go about the application process during this whole time? So as I mentioned, um, when so I'll first specifically talk about the schools and then probably sort of move to the whole scoring or the GMAT part. But from a school perspective, I made sure that firstly I know my whole story, that what I want to talk about as a student, what are the things I'm passionate about, and what is that one thing that is driving me to even apply. And as I'd mentioned, this journey of what I felt across the years, this passion for DEI is what I definitely thought that that's like something I want to talk about throughout my application. So what I did as a start, and that's why I thank Nupur for it. My first introspection session, which even helped me bring this up, was the session that I took with Nupur, where we just for 10 days brainstormed across multiple questions, across multiple things I had done over the years in not just like my work, but even undergrad, that helped me bring this aspect that yes, there's something that you know, but there's something that just become much clearer when you do a deeper introspection. And that's what I did with Nupur, and this came across as a big highlight for me. That was like the start of it. That we just had a whole introspection session for 10 days, and we brought these points or aspects out of my application. And then across multiple iterations over, I would say at least 6 months, we were able to uh, weave my journey that I've lived, but in a much connected way. Like I would have done different things across. Like I headed Inactive, which is a social entrepreneurship society in my undergrad. Then I was the DEI head at I was leading one pillar on safety at my firm. I had like female mentors with me because I was the only female sales manager. So all of these aspects were definitely there in my profile, but like Nupur really helped me to like weave all of them together and make one full-fledged story around it, because I felt like that was the strongest part of my application, like my passion for DEI and then the work that I've done across it. So I feel, and in the process, I would really recommend that first have this very open introspection session, do realize that what are the important aspects you want to bring across from your application standpoint, and then just make sure all of it ties to one bigger goal that you want to do in life. Like I feel it's very important to have this story being weaved, because you have done different things, but it just makes sense that you tie them all together and have, like make sense, like it should make sense for your long term or your short term goal as well. So that's been my application journey from like writing my essays perspective, from like a wholesome story perspective. And the next part of it was how we get this attuned to like all different schools and the different questions that they have across. So just to start off with Wharton itself, I would say after knowing what I want to write broadly and overall, the questions were very specific to Wharton, when a lot of research went into what you require, like what would you get out of Wharton? How will Wharton be helpful in this case? And I feel like specifically for Wharton, I went into a lot of research by reading a lot of blogs, talking to multiple current Wharton, like back then current Wharton students, taking specific examples from their experiences on what are the things that they highlight about their experiences and how can that be helpful in my story. So like about this course, I got to know from someone who's already doing it, but what aspect of the course they liked, or like what aspect of a particular club they liked. I feel like bringing those niche specific examples and experiences was very helpful for me. And then I weaved that into my bigger story. So again, just putting both of them together, like your story coming in with the research is what helped me do my Wharton essay properly. And I would say very similar again for like Kellogg or Harvard as well, where Harvard was still more generic just on the story, but Kellogg bringing the whole values aspect out of it, or bringing what my goals are out of it, and again adding to my story. So I feel like again just a suggestion, sort of summing up this long ass spiel over here, but have your main story being written out well, and then customize it to every school as per the questions that are being asked.
Oh, wow. That is super helpful, Shivangi. I'm sure prospective students could learn so much from this. And you talked about speaking to a lot of students, right? Current
Yeah.
students, specifically for what and how that was helpful for you. How many students do you think you spoke to, and were you hearing back from students instantly? Because sometimes prospective students talk about not hearing back. So I don't know if you have any advice for them to have better results, success hearing back.
Sure. Yeah. I think this is something I know even today a lot of students struggle with, because this is the time when they are applying. And if you see, most of the students, like 100%, I would say students are right now in their internships. And we know that these 2 to 3 months are super intense for people who are interning as well. So I would say that if you're very sure when you're applying, do not wait to reach out to students in the month of June, July, or August, because that's when you're nearing your applications. This is where you need their inputs. And because, like, if you're round one applicant, your applications are due in September. Uh, Rather start your at least talking to students part back in January, because that's when our say second semester sort of starts, and we definitely have a lot more time then, because we're attending school, and classes are not as intense as how work is right now, to be fair. So I feel like firstly, just schedule this part of your research where you're talking to students very early on, back in January. Of course, you can have your notes and you can always reach back to them if you have very specific questions, but at least your broader overall understanding can be fulfilled with that. In terms of the number of students I spoke to, I again, because Nupur really helped me with reaching out to the other like students have been to Wharton, and they helped me to then further reach out their friends. I was at least able to speak to 10 students as far as I remember. But one thing that was again even more helpful, because I had very little time back then to then speak to people. This is one mistake I made myself. I relied a lot on student experiences through blogs, because Wharton has a huge repository of projects that people do, or the experiences that people share through blogs, and at least 100 blogs. I would have read through a lot of them over my research over that 1 week, because I really wanted to bring out niche experiences and not very generic stuff, which I can obviously find on the Wharton website, but like things that, because DEI itself, I would say not everyone talks about it. People who are passionate talk about it for sure. So I feel like I had to dig very deep and get those experiences out. But I think now, because it's growing at such a length, and every school or like every student is starting to talk about it, just make sure you have the right timing in terms of speaking to people.
Super helpful. Thanks, Shivangi. Now that we've navigated the admissions process as well, and you getting to Wharton, would love to hear about what surprised you when you got to Wharton.
Okay, yeah, this is an interesting one, and I think I have introspected a lot myself on this. That what, how did this whole year went by? What are the things that I was very excited about come before coming here, and what really happened? So to start off with, as I've mentioned, even in my research, I read a lot about how Wharton's going to be not just a super inclusive school, but because it is a class size of 960 people, I was expecting, I knew that I will not be able to meet everyone, but I was just amused by the fact that how the school really has enough opportunities or enough ways in which it makes sure that you meet as many people as you can, at least in your first semester. So my first biggest shock coming to the school was just meeting these extremely diverse people in such a short span of time. I would say diversity not in terms of just cultural backgrounds from where they're coming and who they are, but even professionally. Because as I said, like my whole aim of going to a B school was that I meet people from different industries, and that was fulfilled very easily, very early on in my journey at Wharton. I met people from as diverse backgrounds, like one of my closest friends being a film star in New York versus someone else doing private equity and hedge fund in again New York. So it was as varied as it can get. And that's something that surprised me, that like I thought, like for me everyone is from a business background, everyone's coming from hardcore business jobs, but I met veterans, I met people who were in like CIA, or like, I mean, it's across the spectrum. And that's the beauty of the school, that even learning from non-business people and on their experiences and why they landed to like doing an MBA and how has their journeys been, has been the biggest like takeaway for me from the school. And that's why I urge, like, a lot of people ask me that, did you not want a smaller class size where you could have connected more with people? I feel like this is absolutely the class size that fits well for me, because i could I could speak to so many people and make so many connections, but at the same time I also have like my closer, smaller set of people who I call up every day or like call up every week to reach out to. So it feels like I'm learning from the bigger experiences or like the bigger class size, but at the same time not missing out on having my close net circle as well. So that's like one big takeaway or like one big surprise for me from Wharton. And the second thing, again, because of the size, the amount of things that you can do at the school, or what you can keep yourself busy. Like, I have every semester I have this huge list of things that I want to do, and obviously I'm only able to say achieve 70-80% of it because it's just too much. I feel like it is a perfect place where if you really want to explore and really want to try out different things, like I'm suddenly now so much interested in blockchain, and I'm like attending blockchain conferences, reading about crypto every day, and I have no background whatsoever on this. But because you can get a huge community who talks about it, you can get clubs where you can go and attend conferences or meet speakers who are working at like Polygon or any of these kind of firms. I feel it's the best place where you can just explore different interests that you have. And that's like, that was the idea that I wanted to get out of the school, and this is what I'm actually experiencing in my first year as well.
Okay, that's really helpful. A lot of prospects talk about how do you not get lost in such a large school. So it's really helpful to get your perspective, Shivangi. Going back to the early times you were there, what's something you wish you knew earlier before you got to Wharton?
That is an interesting question. One thing I wish I knew was regarding the recruitment. One pressure I feel every student coming in at Wharton feels is that, oh, you have to get a job as quickly as possible, because you're also in such an intense environment with 950 people competing for jobs. You feel like you're going to lose out on this job, and if this is if you don't get it, then there'll be hardly any opportunities available. You have that mindset until, say, even January, February, and that's already like 5-6 months into the school. And I feel one thing that I wish I knew was how to tackle this part, like how to tackle this intensity in terms of the competition, and not just competition, but your own sort of imposter syndrome, that what if you don't get this job, you'll not be worth it or whatever. I feel everyone should realize this even before going to the school, that you've done well for yourself. You've already, like, in terms of your experience, you've reached a certain level. Then you're at Wharton, and now it's the time you can actually explore, and especially with your internships. Like, if you're interested in something, just give it as much time. Like, I have seen people getting recruited till April as well. And even in, because they were very passionate and clear that this is one very specific startup I want to recruit for, or very specific startup industry that I want to recruit for. And they kept at it. without getting worried that, oh, it's January or like February and I don't have a job yet and everyone else around has a job. So I would say that be very open that you will definitely make something out of it over here. You're smart enough, you're already here, you will get something out of it. And something that you really like. So be clear on what you're passionate about and keep pursuing it. It's very easy to get impacted by the different settings around you and the competition around you, and to give in that, yeah, let's just take whatever I'm getting right now versus actually continuing to pursue what you want. So that's one advice I am now giving myself, even as I now get into my second year recruitment or my full-time recruitment as well.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And definitely something for even admitted students who will be entering for them to think about as well. Going back to the start a little bit more, so where did you live? You know, your first year, and if you can just talk about the living situation in general for students at Wharton, I think that'd be helpful as well.
Yeah, sure. One thing I will tell everyone on just this experience part, I felt like as I got my offer from Wharton, I was very happy, saw that okay, now everything is in place. I didn't know that like even after that, the amount of admin work that will go in right when I'm in India or like whichever country you'll be in to getting to US, it's a lot of work. So be prepared that at least a month will just go in fulfilling all the admin work and getting the housing that you want, or just ensuring like just like the school admin work as well as your living situation admin work is going to be a lot. So I feel mark that out, that if you wanted a break after you get done with your job and before you start school, so already have that 1 month separated out for admin work and then balance that time out, because it's you don't realize how much time that goes into it. But starting with like the whole housing situation specifically, the question to you. So at Wharton, and especially with the MBA, so the school is like I would say 30 minutes away from where everyone lives, because everyone lives in the Rittenhouse area, which is more downtown. And the school is lives like the Huntsman Art Building is definitely away from that. It's on the 37th Street, and that like it at least takes 30 minutes walking time to get to school
Yeah,
if
and
you're there.
by
But
cab, that would be how long? By cab?
by cab, it'll be 10 to 15 minutes in the
Okay.
morning,
By
at
cab
max.
or
Yeah,
by bus, right? Because there's
or
the
by bus, or like
SEPTA.
a trolley that you can take. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that you can take as well, which will also take 10 to 15 minutes
Right,
to get to wherever you are
right.
in
Because
Rittenhouse.
it's
But
under a
yeah,
mile and a half, right?
yes, at least a mile and a half. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But because you want to be where everyone else is, so most of the students, I would say again, like 80%, 80 to 85% of the students end up living in the Rittenhouse area. And there are multiple options, multiple buildings that you can pick from when you're staying there. Because after school also you'll realize like every action in terms of like social or even your club meetings, everything happened in that area, so you don't want to be stuck back there in the school area, and you would rather want to come here. So from a housing perspective, I would say like very apt. This is a website which has brokers across, but you as a student don't have to pay brokerage, but they have immense options in terms of the different like buildings that you can pick from, and like what you can have tours with the brokers that are there. So while whichever country you're in or whichever city you're in, you can sit back and speak to these brokers and have a list of different options in terms of houses that are available, buildings that are available. Speak to like do a video tour yourself and then decide what you want. There are very popular buildings from Wharton, and I would suggest like there is Wanamaker, 2040 Market, 1919 Market. So these are like the top, very popular Wharton buildings as well. So for housing, I would say just have top 2 to 3 criteria that are important for you. Whether like distance from school is important, the amenities are important, being a popular Wharton building is important for you or not. For me, that honestly wasn't, because I knew that I will spend most of my time with the Wharton students. So when I'm back home, I would like to cut off a bit. So I'm staying in a non-popular Wharton building, but because the amenities in terms of the gym and like everything else was so important for me, that I picked up on that. Um,
And what's the building called where you're at?
yeah, so my building is it's called 1900 Arch. It's on the Arch
Okay.
Street, so it's near the Logan Street, like Logan Square area, and not the Rittenhouse Square area.
Okay.
But it's like a new building. Like my house has the amount of sunlight and like everything that I need. So that I prioritize for that and the amenities that are there in the building, not being a popular building. So like there are barely 7, 8 students who are living there, but now more and more first years are coming in versus say a Wanamaker, which is I would say 60% Wharton students, or a 2040 market, which is
Yeah.
60% Wharton students again. So if like when I'm back home, I also want to value my personal space and my personal time. So I don't want to bump into again like a lot of Wharton students and have the similar conversations, because you do spend a lot of time, like 80% of your time is with them. So the 20% I want to reserve for myself. Yeah,
Completely
and
understand.
so very app, as I was saying, was going to be is going to be very helpful. Plus, like even speaking to second year students, because there are a lot of referrals that you can take, and it's a referral bonus for both you and the second year. So they'll be again more than willing to help you out with referrals. Uh, so that's on like picking up the building. You have more enough and more options in it. The next comes like your storage, your moving. That's also another hassle, because a lot of second year students are ready to give away their furniture for you. So then you can either like do use storage houses and save the furniture there, or you can come and do everything through a Facebook secondary market once you're here. So that's again like a hassle, that how do you set up your house, and everything from your like couches to your bed you'll need once you're here. So make sure you have enough time before the school starts to settling down in terms of setting up your house as well.
Gotcha. And very apt you're able to get furniture from second years as well?
No, so from a furniture standpoint, I would say like there is Wharton market itself, which has students across. Like it's a group me chat, which has everybody from like our second years to our third now who have already graduated as well. So you will have enough people who keep posting about their furniture sales, or who keep like connecting you to people who are willing to sell furniture as well. So it's the ideal place to be. And if not, like even Philadelphia has Facebook market groups, which are also very helpful. So I think I use that to set up my like living room furniture, and that was super helpful. You have to just then make sure the travel through a U-Haul and like driving around the city is what you need to get into, and that's why I like have enough time before you come in to start
You
school.
you drove the U-Haul yourself?
Yeah, we
Oh
did that
wow,
from like
kudos.
South Philadelphia back to Rittenhouse, and then got the furniture. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's impressive. And these groups, like the group me thing that you talked about, so that can be accessed once you're admitted, or even like anybody can access that.
I think anybody can access that right now, and that's again one thing I thought I should have done before joining school, but now at least students who are reaching out to me the first years, I'm just sharing the link with them, because they need prospective buyers, and like we need prospective buyers, and they need like prospective sellers. It's a perfect market for everyone. So it's just you can just join in, speak to people, and like just organize the whole thing around storing furniture and moving furniture. But it's very easy, super convenient, plus very cost effective. It's like passed down furniture, and it's not bad if you want to like live here for 1 or 2 years. It's absolutely what everyone does, rather than investing in new furniture or new housing stuff.
Okay. To your point about you were really amazed by how Wharton facilitated you getting to know the class, right? With so many events at the start. Are there any specific events that really stand out for you that you really recommend that people can even look up and read about and helpful for even admitted students in case someone listens?
Sure. I would say that one thing that happened as soon as I got my offer, I was already admitted to like the India group WhatsApp chat, and like the day I got my offer letter, I was already added to that chat. It's just the news flies that fast, but that chat has been super helpful in building up my community even before I get to the school. So I feel like even before you get to school, reaching out to prospective first years, your peers is going to be a little difficult. But because of the community chat, I already had access to 100 people, 100 plus people who will be joining with me, and who I could have gauge for, because you'll have smaller admin questions around insurance, around like again housing, around a lot of like admin stuff you have to do from the school side. So we had that chat, which was accessible in like reaching out to different students. Plus, more than that, we also thought that we, apart from the admin work, we already should start knowing each other. So we had organized these smaller group chats, like someone in our cohort did that, and they had like sign up. So it was just like a 1 hour chat where you just meet people and you get to know them and not talk about the admin stuff as well. So that was a good start for me to have like a few people who, even before I get into school, I can already like rely on and get their help in moving my furniture or get their help in setting up my house. And just generally, because you suddenly feel a lot more change when you move from your country to a new country as well. And you know, in your early days you need those people around you to feel at home. So that was already there for me. And once I was at the school, as I said, like the school did a great job in making sure we have enough and more, like opportunities to meet people, like starting with, as you mentioned, the preterm itself. So you'd put in your learning teams, and the whole preterm experience, like we have first and like very quickly, we in the second or the third day of your preterm, we have our like a field day where we are running across like our sports field, which we have different activities that are very high on team engagement. We get to know each other not through just like talking, but like through being a part of the team and like playing different games around on the field. So I feel that was very important to know, because you'll be divided in different cohorts, and your cohort will, which is a class size of, which is like a smaller size of 80, is what is going to stay with you. You'll be like identified from your cohort, and you'll form your learning teams there, and you form a lot of your initial friends in your class. So just having these class activities was very helpful for me, in then like knowing people. So definitely participate in that. Look out for these activities. You'll be a part of it for sure. Do not miss your preterm in person. Um, that's the biggest experience when you start with early on. And then once in the preterm you're done with these activities, you have a full course that you're studying and a project that you're working on. So but this is specifically with your learning team, and these 6 people, again, as I said, will stay with you throughout your 2 years, 2 years at the school. So through the projects, of course, you get to know the professional side, but we made sure we have these happy hours or these sessions where after work or like after school as well, we are all together and getting to know each other. So preterm again has been super successful in like making sure you meet the people that you have to in your class. And then you have a lot of like events in terms of like the Olympics at the school. This is again Olympics, not just in terms of sports, but we have like say a whole dance show, dance showcase that is there, or like a singing showcase that are there. Then there are board games that are there. So I feel with that, and especially preparing for it, helped me again get to a lot of my friends that I made at the school. Because as a cohort you're preparing, and you're presenting your dance or like your music show at the Olympics. So again, very early on team bonding exercises that you get to do. And then the last part is, of course, the parties at Wharton, or the social part of at Wharton. So you have the white party, you have the red and blue party. These are the big ticket, I would say, parties that do not miss. Like I think early on, it's a good experience to even have all your like, not because not everyone comes in, but all your 500, 600 people across the first and second year to be at these parties and get to know them. Like I feel, especially when you're socializing, these are the fun things or events that get you closer to people. So definitely enjoy that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Uh, Shivangi, now that you've been through your school journey for a year, what do you think is a must-do experience at Wharton?
I will have again a huge list. Nupur. As I told you, like every semester before it starts, I sit down with my list and look out at different things that I'm like interested in. But I would say must do in general, without being too specific on my experiences, be very open to like participating in a lot of these the clubs that you want to. Firstly, I would start with that, because as I said, like there are enough and more options available. Like I in my case, after being very passionate about the DI space, like the first semester just went around return on equality or the Wharton Women in Business or leading the DI summit. The second semester I wanted to also get out of my comfort zone in a fun way and try different things. So I did like Wharton the leadership venture, which is like say a 7 day trek where you're in where you're put in a set of group where you do not know anybody at all, and you do not have your phone, like your network or anything, and you're backpacking and camping in hard conditions, I would say. So I was in Patagonia without anything for like 7 days, without like my internet or anything, and literally backpacking with 40 pounds across and like camping across the terrain. So I really wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone and try these things out. And then after coming back, I took up a dance show, or like I took up a fashion show, like the Penn Charity fashion show. So I thought to myself that these 2 years, I want to just make sure that um, I try different things out there, or I push myself to like move out of my comfort zone. So I would say that coming into the school, because as I said, you'll have enough opportunities, have that open mindset in pushing yourself through it, or like um, just just do it. Like there's no harm in trying different things. This is your time. Do as you feel like, and be just very very open to that. So make sure you know what are the clubs or like activities you're interested in, and that's like the mindset you get into it. And that's like the biggest advice I would give anybody in. Like academics will be important. I mean, will be important, but you'll have like three different levels. You'll have academics as like one part of it, the social or like these clubs would be another part of it. And of course, recruitment, which is like the biggest part of it. But just prioritize out of these three what you want out of your experience in that semester. So, like for us, semester one was the social part took over a lot more priority because you want to know people, you want to experience different things, try out that. So, that became a priority. Second semester, recruitment became a big priority because you want to make sure you get a job quickly. And then now, when I'm done with my first year, I also want to make sure I have like good academic courses on under the belt, and like work with my professors on certain courses and so on. So just have these priorities very clearly set out for yourself, and as I said, keep pushing yourself to trying different things. That's one way I'm getting the most out of this experience as well.
Yeah, very helpful, very helpful. And you just spoke about academics, Shivangi. So, what are the one or two courses and professors you really looking forward to, or that you've already taken, which you've
Yeah,
absolutely loved?
yeah. I think again, um, because I wanted again to do things I've never done in life before. I this semester I took up a course called Valuations. It's by Professor Kevin Kaiser. He's again very famous for like he's a finance professor. So courses on distress investing, or the one that I took, Valuations, what his forte is, and that's I think has been in terms of academics the biggest highlight for me, because as I said, like I've done commerce before, then I did sales and marketing. I absolutely have no idea about finance. And even after that, if I could really understand a course like Valuations, where you start from like understanding what your basics of accounting and your basics of like, how you look at a financial deal, what does it even mean, or what like an investment banker does, to actually making a whole model to value a company which is out for sale, or for purchase. I feel like that course does all the justice to your entire semester one credit. um, would highly recommend if someone's even remotely interested in this space. And I feel like because of it, you could use certain concepts even while I'm working, say for now, any private equity deal on my on in my internship. So that course was very helpful for me. The second course I would say, which is I think you will end up taking because it's again very highly recommended, is negotiations. Um, I took that again back in my first semester itself. I was able to waive off a lot of core courses coming from a commerce background. So I had more leeway to take up a higher course, and that's why I got negotiations in the first semester. But that's again, it's a life skill. It's not just a course that will help you in your acad, but a life skill when you're negotiating for your job offer, or you're negotiating for like anything with the school or with the firm, anything in life. Like it just is super helpful skill set to have, that you know your options, you know your bat now, which is your best alternative to your current option. So I feel like that's again a life skill course that has been super helpful. And the courses that I'm now also looking forward to, I've heard great things about leading with grit. This is by Professor Angela Duckworth. So I'm again looking forward to taking up that, or taking up a course with Professor Samir, because again heard fantastic things about it. So second year I'll have even more leeway to take these courses which are away from my core courses. So yeah, looking forward to these courses as well.
Okay, super, super. And before we get into the recruiting piece, what's something that you wish prospective students knew about Wharton, or maybe if you want to dispel some misconception.
Okay, I think a misconception that even I had, and I think we sort of answered this in a certain way, but I also thought myself like it's a like we would have a lot of time to ourselves because it's like you'll go to school and you'll have like after 5 p.m. you'll have a lot of time. And this is one misconception that got very quickly corrected, and which made me now realize on how I want to balance my time going forward as well. But because you'll have enough and more to do, and if you sign up for a lot of things, I think I barely like I had days where I was sleeping for less than 5 hours because I had put on so much on my plate, not just from a academic or a club perspective, but even social perspective. Like there have been times where I've had 3 dinners planned or being booked in my calendar for one day, and I was like, this is not how I want my life to look like. So I would really suggest like use your calendars very well, use your time really well, and make sure you carve out time for yourself, for your mental health as well. It's not it's just so uncommon that I did not know that I will have to like have a therapist with me, or like I will need time for like my personal mental health as well, because sometimes it just gets too much to you. So I would say like it's not a misconception, but sort of an advice that just make sure you have the right balance between doing or like having your own personal times or managing your calendar as well, and not putting too much on your plate as well, from a social as well as your academic standpoint as well. So just make sure you think that through as well. And there is just absolutely no harm in taking therapy. There's like already free, CAPS therapy that is available at the school as well. And this misconception that like, like mental health in general is not being openly even spoken about. So I would really suggest just have that mindset very clear that it's absolutely okay. And if you take that even at the school, it's absolutely fine. Just go for it if you need it.
Super, super. Yeah, I bet a lot of people can benefit from that. Okay, so now moving to a piece that a lot of listeners would really want to hear about, which is recruiting. So, if you could speak to us a little bit about the recruiting timeline at Wharton. When do the different industry employers arrive on campus? What are the different milestones that first years need to be prepared for? And how early?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so again, I would start with a little perspective before Wharton. So we, again, with our Indian community and the second years who were there, they were very helpful in guiding us through the entire process and timelines. So they're like scheduled chats by the school itself, or like by your communities itself that you can attend. For us, that was like a start point to know what are the different industries that come in, or what are the timelines from a recruitment perspective. And that gives you already a head start. And then there are also like summer programs that, like, if you're say interested in consulting, there are already summer programs that with at least the MBBs that you can already like enroll yourself into even before you get to the school. And you can already have chats with them. You can already attend their sessions to know the firm better or know their processes better even before you get to school. So I would say that this might just seem that it's too early on, and especially for someone who doesn't know what they want to do, or are in the or are like trying to explore. Knowing like attending these chats itself will sound overwhelming, but I would say like if someone has a clear idea that yes, they're looking at consulting and that's what they want to explore, um, we already have these chats going on which you can get to know about, or like these summer programs going on which can also give you a head start in terms of recruitment, in terms of like building a network in with these firms already. But to specifically now answer your question, that once you're at school and what are the different timelines. So of course, like there is uh, there are two cycles of recruitment, I would say. First is this enterprise recruitment, and the second is this non-enterprise, or like I would say all your startup recruitments and so on. So the fixed, I would say, or more structured recruitment is the enterprise recruitment, which is with your top industries like consulting and banking. And the your non-structured ones, or I would say the ones which are more flexible or fluid in terms of recruitment, would be your tech and your startup recruitments. So starting very early on, your semester one itself, if you were interested in consulting or banking, you will already, like, firms will reach out. You'll have very structured processes of recruitment. You will have one whole opportunity week where all these firms reach out to the prospective students. You have coffee chats throughout the day. And I felt like one thing that I realized, which was very different from, say, India, or like I'm sure will be different in different countries, was how building your network over here with these companies is very important versus only your resume that gets you an interview call. So here the firms already invest a lot more time before interviewing you through these coffee chats and evaluating whether they can spend enough time with you as their prospective colleagues or not. And they also want you to know the firms better. So they have dedicated times with their associates and consultants who come on campus and do these. Like for us, it was hybrid. We had companies with physical coffee chats or even virtual coffee chats as well, which gave us a good flavor. And it's just very important to be prepared for that set as well, because once you pass this networking thing is and you submit your resumes or applications for these firms, is when you get interview calls. And a lot is based on how you conducted yourself, or how much interest you portrayed in which city or like state that you want to work for, or which company you want to work for. So I would say that that's itself is in a structured recruitment cycle is the first important bit, even before you submit your application. And then as I mentioned, that happens in October, and then you move to your cycle where you by November already know which are the firms you're going to interview for. And then the entire of December, and that's why a lot of like students stay back, is basically your case prepping and I'm specifically talking about consulting here, and then I'll move to banking also, which has very similar timelines. So December is where you're preparing all your cases. You do like anywhere between 40 to 50 cases for a consulting offer to, and you case with your fellow peers, or you case with your second years as well, and sometimes with these companies employee as well. So you only focused on the casing part of it, or the preparation of the interviews, which are your fit prep as well, or the behavioral interview part of it as well. And then comes January, very early on, up until 15th of January, you have multiple rounds of interviews with the MBBs. And then you move to your other firms like your LEK, Parthenon, all of these firms as well have interviews post 15th of January. So by, I would say, end of January or by first week of February, consulting recruitment is over, where you've done with multiple rounds, and you within I think within the same day or within the next day, you know if you're getting the offer from the firm or not, especially in case of consulting. In terms of banking, again, very similar, very fast-paced timelines as well. You have structured like opportunity week sort of ways where your companies come and interact with you. You apply, and then you have your interview scheduled for the first 10 to 15 days of January itself. So again, even with banking in the enterprise recruitment, you're done with your recruitment again by the end of January. And then is the second cycle of recruitment, which is, I would say, a more unstructured one, or the one where you have to reach out more to the companies than the companies reaching out to you. And that's like tech recruitment and startup recruitment. So with tech recruitments, I know people who have at least applied, say, to even 100 companies and then interviewed for multiple of them. So how it works is that you have your own list of companies or within tech different sectors that you're interested in. You reach out, you apply on their portals or through Wharton portal as well. Whatever opportunities keep coming in, and if you're interested, you keep applying. And it's not like consulting where you definitely know that they come, or like banking where you definitely know there is a fixed cycle where the companies come and interview you. So you can get interviews on a rolling basis. If say if you even if you applied in December, you might have an interview back in February when the firm got interested and they reached out to you. So it's very unstructured. And I would say like that's why you keep feeling a little jittery throughout the process, a little scared that when am I going to get that call for an interview or the offer. But I have seen people who have got amazing offers in the tech recruitment cycle as well. Um, so keep at it. You will by the end of the process have multiple offers, not just one, because you've applied to so many firms, and you can pick from your offers. And similarly for like startups as well, it's startups are like your private equity recruitment, or like your more niche recruitment, which takes fewer people, but you have like multiple options. Like a consulting firm takes 30 people versus a startup taking only one or two people, or like a private equity firm only taking one or two people. So that again happens through February, March, and April cycle, where you are more active in reaching out and showing interest and making those connections versus, as I said, the firms reaching out to you. So that's more or less the cycle in terms of recruitment. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And and Shivangi, tell us about your internship. You mentioned EY-Parthenon. If you can just talk about the group you're working with. Was it through on-campus recruiting that you secured your offer? And and what aided you in your success?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was an on-campus offer. It was a part of the whole structured process that I've been through, and I somehow through again my experiences I've gauged that and after taking that valuations course as well, that I'm definitely interested in the whole private equity or the deal space or the investing space myself. And I know for me to segue into that, I need like another career before, or like another opportunity before I directly get into private equity because of my background. So I'm looking at consulting right now as like I'll work here for a couple of years, get that experience out, and then segue into a more niche or segment that is like for me private equity or the investing space. And that's why I also picked up Parthenon as a firm, because we do a lot of due diligences here at the firm, and all of them are like on private equity deals. So I knew that I will get a flavor of working across industries, across projects, and also knowing how a deal will look like or how a private equity fund works well. So for me, it fit very well in fulfilling both my aspects in terms of the careers that I want to look at. And talking about the experience, it's been honestly fantastic so far. I Because the deals are shorter, you get to work on multiple projects. So I already am done with one project, and that was in the consumer segment space. So again, like that was one industry that I already knew, but working on a different aspect, like retail, was something that I was very interested in. So my previous experience has been hardcore consumer sales and marketing. This was working on a retail client and working on their opportunities of expansion with them in the tech space. So I felt like it was a very good mix of knowing what I already knew versus getting to experience something else as well. And now starting like next week, I'll be staffed on another consumer project, which is going to be again a fast-paced due diligence as well. So I feel like right now with getting this exposure has been super helpful, and I will now also look at like getting an offer from them hopefully by the end of summer, and then deciding how I want to look at my second year as well. But yeah, like so that's been my experience at Parthenon. My like people, I can like generally talk about consulting experience with my friends as well. So you staffed on projects. You can pick you give your preferences on what industries you want to work for in the segment, but basis the supply of like, or like I would say the different projects that are available, you're staffed on a project. You can decide whether you want to travel or not, or you want to stay in the city that you've opted on. So I feel like that flexibility that consulting gives you is absolutely amazing, and the learning curve is phenomenal. I think that's why a lot of people join in, that very early on, within like say a week, you have to do so much research. It becomes intense, but you have to do research to get to know a completely new industry you've never heard of, worked in, and you are then advising them, or like you're working very closely with them to tell them how they can do better at certain problems that they're facing. So I feel it's absolutely amazing for someone who likes problem solving, who likes to like have a knowledge belt on knowing different things or different industries. And if that's you, then you should look at consulting.
Super helpful. And what helped you succeed in the recruiting process to secure your job? Like, what do you think you did well?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, I had an offer from uh, Parthenon. I had an offer from Strategy, and then like I got out of like my interviews for the other firms as well because I already had these two offers. For me, I felt like having a head start again, especially when I was talking about the whole opportunity week, where before getting in, I already knew that this is what I want to do. I had very structured coffee chats. I knew exactly who I want to talk to, which city I'm going to recruit for, what kind of like aspects about my profile I want to display across. So before even having that opportunity week and having that head start in terms of preparing my resume and preparing my pitch and preparing those conversations was very helpful for me. And I got to know that just because I spoke to a lot of people as soon as I got into school, and even before through the whole summer camp that I was talking about. That helped. And then just like I had interview calls across MBBs and all these other firms as well. And for me, one thing that really was helpful was preparing my fit questions or the behavioral questions as well as I did casing, because I feel like a lot of people leave out on that part, and they really just say that that's like one day preparation because that's just one aspect. The more important aspect is casing. I wouldn't say that, because I feel like after doing 40, 50 cases, a lot of people are very good at casing. So the differentiator then between two good candidates who are absolutely like at an equal level in terms of casing is the fit part of it, where then they see that what who you are as a person, what have you done, why are you interested in this job, and what are the aspects or learnings that you bring in from your career perspective to this job, because they still want you to be like, say for example, if I have consumer experience for 5 years, how can that be valuable for the projects or for the companies that I'm working for, and what is that skill set that I have gained out of those that previous work experience that I can bring in. So I feel like for me the differentiator then became the fit prep or the behavioral prep. So anyone who's again recruiting for consulting, I would say that make sure you have enough time given to that part as well of your interviews and not just casing. And the second advice I would also give, that do not over case as well. Like I've seen people who've done hundreds or like more than 100 cases, and after a point you become very mechanical. Like again, these firms are not looking at you know one particular kind of answers. They still want you to be unique. They still want you to be quirky with your answers. So do not be mechanical by over prepping as well. And yeah, that's like things those are the mistakes that people definitely do. So yeah, be careful of that.
Okay, super. In terms of you setting yourself up for success, so was it mostly through students and seniors, or and how were you leveraging the career management team as well through the whole process?
Yeah. So absolutely. I think when I say the second years, I feel like that was more structured through career management, because especially for enterprise recruitment, we have a very well set up team with the career management, and they're like professors who are involved in it. There are admins like who are involved in it. They make sure we are divided into different pods, and so pods is where you have fellow first years and at least 2 to 3 second years as well, who become your case parents or who become your guided like people who you can reach out to for any and every sort of queries. So within that pod, and you are casing with them throughout. So whenever I felt second years, these are these people who helped me through the process. And then apart from my case parents, I had again a huge list of second years who were willing to give time and spend like give you a case and help you with your process as well. So this again was structured through CMS, where like the Wharton Career Management Service portal, where you have every resource back there. You have all your casebooks, you have contacts of these second years, you have contacts of these firms, any like application videos, any like you have resources like the BCG case coach and all of these kind of resources available at the portal. And at the same time, you have your professors who are also, or like career counselors who are ready to give their time on for one-on-one chat, where you can bring up even when you have to pick up which firm or which city or what industry you want to work for. They are super helpful and always available to chat through. And as I said, like for enterprise recruitment, this was very structured. And for your own tech recruitments or startup recruitments, you have to be more flexible in reaching out versus having this very well structured system already out there for you.
Okay, very helpful. Shivangi, one thing there's a lot of chatter about is an impending recession. Have you been hearing anything about it at school or otherwise? Just something that prospective students bring up as well. So it would be good to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm smiling through this question because it's like the last thing that I worked on at the firm was exactly on this, where say like we even consulting firms do a lot of research and they bring in the industry aspects on how say, the consumers are feeling or how retailers are feeling about this whole recession piece. So my last project was exactly on that without getting into a lot of details. But absolutely, I feel like as students, we and that's the community at Wharton. We talk about it ourselves. We have a lot of like discussion and debates around it. We've seen a lot of firms also, not a lot, but a few firms in a few industries also pull back their offers because right now they're getting into a freeze in terms of their offers. So definitely that's one aspect we are also kind of scared about a little, like now getting into the recruitment cycle for our second year on a full-time basis. This might affect us. But again, as I said, like the only thing that we are being confident that if say we have choice of like top three industries, even if we don't get into our top one industry choice, we'll at least have top two and three that we will be able to recruit for, because there will be some impact for sure getting into our second years, whether it's the tech recruitments where a lot of freezing has been happening, or like the private equity investments where funds are being careful of hiring because not many deals are happening. There are interest rates which are very high right now, so a lot of capital is not flowing as fast as was previously. So we know that in specific sectors or industries, the impact is going to happen. Like even for that matter, consulting, because if you're not getting the private equity funds to invest, what are the deals that you'll be working on for that matter, right? So we know this is going to impact most of the industries. But at the same time, we are hopeful that like after the internship experience, we will get like return offers, or like we will have not, if not the first one, the second or the third top choice industry that we can recruit for. But you're right, like this one topic that has been spoken at not the firms only, but also back at school when we're talking about our second year recruitment.
Super helpful. So as we're just rounding it off, do you have any final advice or words of wisdom for prospective students or even admitted students? I know two very different groups, maybe one piece of advice for each of them separately.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to wrap up with that. So, for the prospective students, I feel like, as I mentioned again, do your school specific research very well. I feel like after coming here, I'm so glad that I picked up the school over the other school offers that I had, because I definitely felt like this is the fit for me. So it's important you really do your research as well, and not just, as I mentioned in the beginning, that you have your M7s and you apply everywhere. And of course, do that, but then you should, in hindsight, know after your research that which are the schools that you resonate well with. What is your personality type like? And trust me, like schools do have a personality type. If you really want speak to the people who are there, you'll be able to understand what that person is, how they fit in that school, and that brings the personality of the school well. So have that right fit for yourself, and you don't want to you're spending so much time, effort, and money in this MBA. So having that right fit is very important. You don't want to regret that after 2 years. For the admitted students, I feel like starting now with your first years, with your preterm, as I said again, for me, the first year was such a highlight, and I was able to do so much because I was, again, very open to trying different things. You will have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, be it your social, be it like if in a social setting, if you do not like to, hang out with a lot of people, you're a type of an introvert that way. Try, coming out of that comfort zone, experience it for yourself, and then decide. So I would not say that absolutely do it, but like just trying different things is what worked very well for me, knowing what I want. So absolutely be very open to that idea, and to like just make the most of your time at school. Just be, you know make know your priorities for yourself, like whether it's acad, absolutely just do that, whether it's social, do that, but knowing that is very important, to not get lost. And I think that's like one advice that all our second years just gave us, and that really helped me as well. Now as I sit and look at my second year, I again will sit down with my list, prioritize what I want, and be open to trying. So just do that.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Shivangi. And I really want to acknowledge you for being so willing to share freely everything that you know, so authentically. This is super helpful for everyone who's listening. So I really cannot thank you enough.
No, absolutely. No, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
All right, with that, we bring the chat to a close.